What's up, fight fans? This is Kirk with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning the IBF, Oleksandr Usyk, and the explanation thereof. The IBF president explains the current status of their heavyweight belt, and in celebration, Usyk lifted a special belt with one word, undisputed. Okay, great night of boxing and a great fight worthy of the hype, the International Boxing Federation president Daryl People said. But now, with word coming Tuesday that former champion Tyson Fury intends to exercise his rematch clause, which will likely lead to an October 2nd rematch in Saudi Arabia, the IBF is posted to take its belt away from Usyk. The IBF mandatory title contender Croatia Filip Hrgovic has waited his turn 3 times, according to the spokesman for Team Usyk, or Team Hrgovic, and he's not willing to wait any longer as Hrgovic prepares for his June 1st bout against England's Daniel Dubois at the Kingdom Arena in Saudi Arabia. He said, "It's time," the spokesman said. People explains IBF rules make it pretty clear that Hrgovic is entitled to his title fight. The rule is you cannot have a clause in your contract that guarantees a return bout rematch that will interfere with your mandatory, people said. It's not a secret amongst promoters. Everyone more or less knows the consequences of having those clauses. We've been down this road before. Before commenting to such a clause, promoters, managers, and fighters obviously weigh the impact of losing the belt versus the money that can be earned for a rematch of this magnitude. And acknowledging that's likely true in the case of Usyk Fury, people said something more. He said, as far as the IBF rules go, any reigning champion is going to be able to ask for an exemption, people revealed. Any reigning champion can ask for an exemption to any IBF rule. He was asked, Usyk can ask the IBF to sanction the rematch and keep it an undisputed affair again. He said they have the right to, people said. Why hasn't he? I don't know, people's answered. So is Hrgovic Dubois going to be an IBF title fight? He said, I don't know, people said. Right now, Hrgovic Dubois is not any title at this point. I'm sure there's people making decisions behind the scenes before they approach me about anything. That's certainly true. We will speak with people in Saudi Arabia to see their plans and, of course, ask what Usyk wants to do, Klima said. Okay, so let me counterpunch. A lot of reading. He hasn't made the deal yet, but he plans on taking it away from Usyk because Hrgovic deserves it. He deserves that fight. Okay. Here's my thing. They knew about the rematch clause before that. So I think communication is important. And since communication is important, Daryl Peoples, I didn't even know his name until now. So the IBF president is Daryl Peoples, said that, hey, Usyk can ask for that, any rule or any extension, but he hasn't. Okay, so basically what Daryl Peoples is saying, it's up to Usyk if he wants to ask for that waive once again. Okay, but then when you do hear things like Filip Hrgovic has waited long enough, he's taken step-aside money, he needs his shot, and they know the consequences of rematches like that prolongs our rules. You know, it's like, okay, do you want him to ask for it only for you to turn it down? Or do you want him to ask for it only for you to be in compliant based on the situation of all the belts included? Because it's more than just the IBF. Okay. My counterpunch is I would feel a lot better if those guys that they stripped weren't B-side fighters. Because Usyk was a B-side fighter. Crawford was a B-side fighter. Fury was a B-side fighter when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. All of these are B-side fighters. So it's like this. If you're If these are, let's hope these are not convenient rules that you're pulling and you're using them for your convenience. In other words, okay, that's better explained. Versus, hey, these are the rules. This is how it happens. We'll strip anybody, ask anybody. Let's do that. That's what we do. But it's hard to really make that distinction. You know, I used to look at IBF as sticklers, but now I've seen a pattern of fighters that they decide like, we're going to strip you. And and here's the thing. If they're intending on stripping Usyk of that belt, why haven't they given him a time frame? This is the president, after all. He's supposed to know all the rules. And when he says things are working behind the scenes, I don't like that type of stuff. They could be talking about Turkey Usyk. They could be talking about Team Fury. They could be talking about Eddie Hearn with Philip Hrgovic. They could be talking about anything. But he says behind the scenes, none of this behind the scenes stuff. You know, you should impose your rules being the president of a sanctioning body. And that's easy. Instead of, there's like, well, we're going to ask Usyk what he wants to do. That's what Klima said. But then, I know they represent Usyk or whatever, and they will ask Usyk. But at the same time, why would you go forth and make a comment or make a statement that says, I'm going to strip Usyk of his belt that he just got before even seeing if Usyk is going to ask you anything? I think before people jump the gun, they should see all the information available. That, again, comes back to communication. If you don't communicate with a person, how are they going to know? If you're hell-bound on, hey, this is that, we're going to make this IBF belt mandatory for Hrgovic, that's what we're going to see. But now they're not even going to make it for June 1st, so that's not even going to be the case. But then again, they're not even giving anybody any deadline or any time frame. So that really sounds suspicious. All we read was, if we go back, okay, he says, let's see, Peoples explains that Hrgovic is entitled to the fight, okay, and he did say, the IBF is poised to take its belt away from Usyk. So, so I'm like, okay, what the hell does that really mean? Okay, so they're taking the belt away from Usyk, but then they don't even know what Usyk's going to say, and they're leaving it up to Usyk. But I think if you respect your champion, you'd ask your champion before making a statement like that. Now, I understand about every mandatory deserves his shot. I understand that. Philip Hrgovic was kind of drugged through the mud based on the people that ducked him over the years, i.e. Ortiz, Ruiz. Many others ducked Philip Hrgovic because they just didn't want to tangle with that guy. Young, strong, hungry, big, good puncher. They didn't want any of them. So, yeah, it was a kind of a hard road that made him a bit bitter coming up. But he's where he needs to be for his title shot. So he deserves it. I get that. But understand this. That does not mean you should take a fighter that has nothing to do with your rules, that wasn't even champion amongst your rules, for that amount of time, and trying to obey and comply with your rules, to treat them like that. Now, unless this was a warning, that would be different. But this didn't seem like a warning. This seemed like, hey, I'm poised to take it away because we ain't heard from Usyk. Why hasn't he asked us? Okay, he hasn't asked you because maybe he's tired. Why don't you ask him? But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of the IBF making their statement on Oleksandr Usyk going in depth on the situation with the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch.
Peace.